All right. So today we have Erock. He is all over social media, anywhere that you try to find him. Pretty much covering Philadelphia Eagles, and not just the Philadelphia Eagles, but kind of the behind-the-scenes life of a season ticket holder of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Sure.
Erock, I really appreciate you joining me on a what is this, Wednesday morning, afternoon, wherever
Wednesday.
you're at out
Yeah.
there. And you still in South Philly, or are you in Jersey?
No, I live in Jersey now. When I started doing social media, I was living in Philadelphia. Yeah, it's 12 noon on the East Coast, which means Nick Sirianni's up here, and you and I briefly talked about, the good news about, jail and practicing, which is awesome. But I wanted to thank you for the kind introduction, and also thank you for noticing or at least putting it out there that, hey, it's not just like Eagles-related content, but it's also kind of the behind the scenes of what it's like to be down there on game day and what it's like, the authentic Philadelphia game day experience, because that's an important part of what I try to do and what I try to communicate through social media is bring you guys along for the ride and show you what's happening, see what's happening on game day.
Yeah, so from an outsider's perspective, it kind of just seems like your life right now through social media is just one big party that involves the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, I'm glad it looks like that on the outside. I promise you, maybe at a point in my life, it was one big party. I'm a father of two beautiful kids. I got a beautiful wife. I'm in bed by a reasonable hour almost all the time, unless there's like a an Eagles related event. But parties. I'm glad it looks from the outside looking in like I'm just partying all the time. That's awesome. That's good to know.
Now, was it a little crazier before the wife and kids got involved and some of the earlier days when you were DJing, and then also can I get some backstory on how you became a DJ and what really started this?
Yeah, so it kind of snowballed very rapidly. I had moved to Philadelphia from New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey, but I moved to Philadelphia on kind of a. And hey, if anybody's out there listening and has the opportunity to do it, I would urge you not to pass up the opportunity. But like a little bit of a self-discovery kind of, hey, figure things out, go to a city where nobody knows who you are, you don't know anybody, and just kind of, figure out who you are and a little self-discovery mission. And in the process of doing that, thought to myself, hey, it'd be a good idea, because at the time, Eagles social media was like 4 dudes on YouTube talking about the birds. Like, that was it. That was Eagles social media right there. And, I thought to myself, hey, you like talking about the Eagles, you got plenty of time on your hands. Why don't you give this video thing a shot? And, I come up with these ideas. Most of the time they're garbage. This one was probably the best idea I ever came up with. And bought a laptop and a camera and started pumping out, YouTube videos. Within 2 years of that, got picked up by the Eagles to work on their television network as a on-air talent and covered the draft for them. They sent me up to Radio City Music Hall back when they used to host it there for a couple years. And that sort of microphone, MC, personality thing transitioned into DJing, which Xfinity Live was just opening up, and most people who learn how to DJ got a DJ buddy, or they just started on their own, or they try to learn it. And I was lucky enough for them to be, hey, we like what you do on the mic, we like your energy, we like your enthusiasm. This is a sports bar place. We just got to teach you how to DJ. And so I was taught by 5 of the best DJs in Philadelphia, and what normally takes people 6 years to learn, I learned in 6 months. So I got a crash course and right out the box after 6 months, I was better than half the DJs in Philly. You know, no disrespect, but, you know, I was fortunate enough to have this sort of crash course by the best. And if I didn't have that, you know, I would have struggled. I probably would have never gotten into DJing.
Yeah.
But that was just, you know, it's an all-around entertainment thing. It's the social media aspect of it. It's the, as again, I'll circle back and thank you for pointing it out. It's the, hey, showing you the authentic game day experience thing. It's about entertaining. It's about bringing people together. It's about, you know, letting people see from your vantage point. That's kind of what, you know, the fundamentals that I built my brand off of.
Was there ever a point where you kind of questioned yourself early on and said, man, I don't know if this video is going to work. I don't know if I want to release it. I don't know how I look on camera. Or were you always super confident and just put it out there and said, fuck everyone else?
Well, I would say I was super confident in what I was doing, only because what I was doing on social media was what I was doing anyway. So, you know, if I would go to training camp, okay, well, now I'm just bringing a camera and sharing my thoughts. I would go to the playoff pep rallies. Okay, well, now I'm just bringing a camera and I'm showing you what's happening. I'm at the games. I'm the season ticket holder. It was my parents were season ticket holders. I grew up going to those games. Okay, well, you're there. It's not like I was changing any of my already existing behavior. I was just taking a camera with me and trying to share it with the world. Now, I will say this, like, you know, my first 2 seasons on YouTube, which I started in 2007, and I just recently, it's funny I'm talking about this, I just recently looked back just to verify it. But my first 2 seasons on YouTube, I deleted back before YouTube, you know, had a unlisted or private video option. It was either on YouTube or it wasn't. And that's the way things go. Like, the first 2 years on YouTube were so bad that when I started to get a little notoriety to my name and started to get a little recognition, like, people would go back and watch my stuff from a couple years prior and be like, what the hell is this? And I wish I still had them, because I would love to go back. I would probably watch like 30 seconds at a time because I would be cringing so hard.
Yeah.
But you know, I wish I still had them, because that's what everybody's got to do. Everybody's got to find their voice. Everyone's got to find their, you know, their niche. Everyone's got to find their cadence and you can see it with people have. I could see it with Jason Kelsey happening. You know, when he first started to watch or his podcast, I was watching him and his shoulders were a little scrunched up and he didn't necessarily have the confidence in his voice. And then midway through the season, or after the first season, you know, he's relaxed, his shoulders are down, his back's straight. He's talking with a lot more confidence in his voice and projecting a lot more. And that's kind of, you'll experience that in your podcasting. Everybody experiences it. The difference between the people that actually like get to where they're going and the people who don't are the people who just stick with it and realize there's no such thing as instantaneous success. You have to keep working on your great game and honing your craft and hey, you can't get upset that, you know, why is this guy getting follows and I'm not? Why is my stuff's better than this guy's, but this guy, don't worry about that. Just keep on your grind and keep making yourself, man, not the Nick Sirianni the thing, but, you know, 1% better every day. And eventually what you're saying and your brand and what you're trying to communicate will resonate with people. But
yeah, it's funny you bring up Nick Sirianni and all of that because when he first got hired, the whole flower, you know, growing the flower reference or whatever, however he said it, I don't think boded well with the fan base, and I didn't think that he was gonna do much. You know, they hired him. Where was he at? The Colts, and it was like, well, they ain't done shit in forever. And but it looks like Jeffrey Lurie's got an excellent resume of hiring coaches.
Well, he does, and whatever they're doing, whatever is happening in that interview process. You know, okay, you hired Chip. That wasn't great. You tried to overcorrect on the Andy thing. I get it. You know, you're allowed a mulligan there. But whether it be Andy, whether it be Doug, whether it be Nick, whatever they're looking for is working. Because, you know, and when Nick was up there and stumbling and bumbling and just a terrible introductory press conference, you know, a lot of times I was rooting for the guy because I'm like, I don't know who this man is football-wise, but I know that part of being a head coach is navigating that podium and that microphone. That's part of the job description. You need to be able to do that effectively in order to gain respect in the locker room. And it's not easy. Everybody thinks they can do it. Everybody thinks they can just go up in front of a crowd with millions of people thousands of fans watching live and just belt out a winner. But that's not the reality of it. Public speaking is hard. Communicating a thought is hard. When the spotlights and the cameras are all in your face, it's hard. And to Nick's credit, you know, the Eagles media team did a great job of kind of coaching him. He needed to be coached up. And, you know, they worked with him to kind of tighten. And you can even, this has been the best year of Nick Sirianni press conferences he's ever had. Because he's, despite the, you know, Cleveland kind of with the kids on the podium chirping at the fans press conference, it's been the best set of press conferences that he's had because he's genuinely, just like the players got to work on their craft and the coaches got to work on their craft, media-wise, you can tell he's really buttoned it up. And, again, what is he, in year 3, 4? I mean, this stuff takes time, you know?
Do you think that whole kids thing, do you partly believe that it was to kind of deflect some tough conversations or questions that were coming, or do you think he genuinely wanted the kids up there for joy?
I don't know, and to be honest, I wouldn't even want to speculate or make. As a father myself, that's not my place to judge another dad. What I do know is that he's done it before, specifically with home games. I know the life of an NFL coach can kind of you're separated from your family a lot. So when he would have these home game press conferences, often at times his kids would be there. I said it on my podcast. You know, I can't relate to Nick Sirianni at all. He's forgotten more about X's and O's than I'll ever know in my life. But where I can relate to is being a dad and having your kids in front of a camera. And sometimes it's not the best idea. So maybe, you know, don't bring the kids. But I'm not going to – I can't from this seat tell you firmly whether or not Nick Sirianni did that to deflect any criticisms or not be asked the hard questions. He hasn't. I don't think he's done it since. I don't know that for sure because a lot of times when I listen to a home game press conference, I'm in the car, you know, driving home from the game. So I don't know if he's done it since. But again, it's part of the learning experience. Like if he hasn't done it since, he obviously took that and was like, okay, that's not a great idea, and move forward with it. And again, I think this is the best that Nick's ever been at the podium or on the mic since he's gotten here.
There are two people in your videos that I constantly see. And from an outsider's perspective, I'm very curious on the backstory of how they got involved. And that is Prime and Gail.
Yeah. So, first of all, you're talking about, like, two of my brothers, right? Like great guys, genuinely good people. In the early dawn of my social media stuff and doing stuff with the Eagles, Gail, who was working for Viacom, Nickelodeon, MTV at the time, in Times Square there, was watching my stuff, and we had an opportunity to connect at training camp and meet each other, and he brought me a backpack full of Nickelodeon goodies, Paw Patrol stuff, and Dora stuff for my daughter, which, hey, you want to be nice to me? That hits a certain way. You want to be nice to my kid, that hit's completely different.
Yeah.
So we just, and it's just we developed a friendship over the years and stayed in touch. And when I would do the Radio City Music Hall drafting, I would make sure to go visit him at MTV and maybe shoot some Birds content. And I kind of had the foresight in 2016 to say, okay, like, I jumped on YouTube right when YouTube was blowing up. I jumped on Twitter right when Twitter was blowing up. What's the next thing to blow up? And that was podcasting. So we formed a podcast. It was like me and Gail. And then with Prime, we met at Chickies and Pizza at a playoff pep rally. And
you remember what playoff game?
No, I don't. I don't. I don't think Prime was there season 1. I think Prime showed up season 2. You see, he was a listener of the podcast, and we met up at an Eagles event. And you know what? He got that Pope hat spray airbrushed for me. He pointed me in the right direction there, and then we just started hanging out. Oh, and then he started acting as like security at the tailgate. Prime's a big guy. So like these friendships and everything should very much be on brand with what I told you before, what my social media is about, which is if I wasn't on social media, I'm still going. I was going to the playoff pep rallies anyway. I was going to training camp anyway, which is where I connected with Gail. Bringing people together, connecting with fans that you don't know, people from all different walks of life, people that live in different states, come from different backgrounds. Like, I'm a big fan of how when you scan the parking lots, it doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Hispanic. It doesn't matter your religion, age, nothing. Everyone's wearing green. Everybody's in a good mood unless they lose, and then traffic sucks on the way out. But like how football can bond a community. And so my friendships with those guys should be very reflective of how I feel about my brand, which is just bringing people together. And good people are good people, and when you meet good people, you stick around them.
We know that the tailgates down there in Philly could get a little crazy. I would say a lot of stuff going on. What's the craziest thing you think you've seen at an Eagles tailgate?
Craziest thing I've seen. Well, the guy slamming into the Christmas tree this year, which is on my Instagram, was up there. People brought the craziest thing I've seen. You believe it or not, I haven't seen too much out of the ordinary. You see people in goofy outfits, crazy outfits. Maybe somebody running around without their shirt on, a dude running around without their shirt on in negative 32-degree weather. A lot of drinking, a lot of dancing, a lot of partying, a lot of smiling, a lot of laughing, a lot of high fives.
No titty flashing?
No.
No. I think it's pretty crazy over there in Buffalo. They jumped to the table.
Yeah, no, they got that's a different breed up there. That's a different animal.
And then the last, obscure, I guess, question I had. You're also, you've been in the stadium,
yeah.
And there was. You got to go to games at the Veterans Stadium, right?
Yes.
And I don't know if it was ever confirmed, or maybe you could help me out, but there was a jail under the stadium.
Yes, there was. There was a jail, and they would make a pregame announcement. Any of the old heads that you ask them about it will still recite it verbatim. And today's court is resided by the Honorable Lord, Judge Seamus McCaffrey. The name Seamus McCaffrey will be burned into my brain for the rest of my life, because every pregame before the national anthem, they would announce like who the judge was at the bottom of the stadium. As basically, I don't know, maybe a warning shot to Eagles fans that were there. Like, hey, listen, we got a judge in the building. There was holding cells, little holding cells, but it was basically like you go in front of the judge, you plead guilty or not guilty, and you just get a fine, and then you're kicked out of the stadium for that game. But Veterans Stadium was the how do I put that? How do I phrase this? Veterans Stadium was it's remembered fondly, but I want to caution people, like nostalgia kind of makes something appear better than it was. Veterans Stadium was a shithole. It wasn't a good stadium. Like, if you didn't see a game there, you weren't missing anything. If you never got to experience Veterans Stadium, you weren't missing anything. It wasn't a good stadium. It was terrible. I mean, the big screen was terrible. The escalators never worked. The bathrooms were always terrible. It was a dump, but it was the characters within the stadium that kind of gave it its personality. That's saying the fans, and I sat in the what was it, 600 level, 600 or 500? Might have been 500. Was it no, it was 600, and a lot of time was spent watching the game. A lot of time was spent turned around watching the fist fights at the top of the stadium. There was shit that happened that now day and age will get you canceled within 2 seconds. It was the Wild West up there, and so like that part is very. You look back and you're like, man, I can't believe we did all that wild shit, and that's the fun nostalgic part. As far as the stadium goes, it was. You're not missing anything. Don't feel like you missed out on anything if you never saw a game at the back. It wasn't great.
So we got Sunday, 4:30.
Mm-hmm.
Packers. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. As I'm going through my own show prep for my show tonight on PHLY, I'm looking at the stats and statistically on paper, I mean this Eagles Packers matchup is pretty damn dead even. But I feel like the Eagles have rest. They have confidence. I feel like they have their identity, and they've had their identity for a while now. And just with the home crowd and Jalen coming back and the rushing title holder for this year in Saquon, it's just a big ask for the Packers to come in here and try to win. I think they're a good football team. I think they're capable of beating the Eagles. I just don't think they will. The one giant asterisk that I'll put by it, like the concussion thing with Jalen doesn't worry me. The defense doesn't worry me. Nothing worries me. If there's one thing that's going to cost the Eagles the game, and no Eagles fan is going to want to hear it, but I'd be lying, and I'm going to put this in my own show. I'm lying to you if I tell you that I'm not a tad bit worried, and I'm just being honest. It's just the rust on Jalen. He had an unbelievable training camp where it was well documented that he threw like one pick. Afterwards, he comes out against the Packers and throws 3 of them. And not just 3 interceptions, like 3 egregious intercept. Like what are you doing, Jalen? Type of throws. And, it's going to be very incumbent on Kellen to make it easy for him and to scheme people open and not to have long developing routes. It's going to be incumbent on Kellen, Saquon to, do the heavy lifting this time around. As he's been doing the majority of the season, it's going to be incumbent on the offensive line to protect Jalen because heaven forbid another concussion. I think he's mandatory out for like 4 weeks, like the whole playoffs are blown. We might as well pack it in at that point, unless Nick Foles is around doing nothing and decides to suit up. So if there's one thing that I have all the confidence in the world that they're going to win the game. I have all the confidence in the world that they're a better team. But nothing's an absolute, right? That's why they play the game. If it was an absolute, they wouldn't even have to go out there and play the game. But they do. And now on any given Sunday or Saturday or any given playoff game, right? So, but I think if there's one thing that could be the fly in the ointment. It's just that, you know, Jalen's got a couple hasn't thrown a ball in a couple weeks. Needs to have a good day of practice today, but I feel like at this point in the season, there's a difference in rust and not playing the preseason and coming out and looking sloppy week one. That's a lot different than not having a couple weeks off at the end of the season when you've been playing all year. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
And hopefully, you know, we all know that there's injuries that are not disclosed and bumps and bruises here and there, and that finger he's got going on. If anything, it might have given him some rest that he didn't see coming, and maybe we'll get a 100% or close to healthy Jalen Hurts, because he was steamrolling the Commanders when he went down.
Yeah, I was there for that game, and I could, you know, you could sense the fear. You know, Jalen looked good. He was accurate early. You're right. If Jalen stayed in that game, we're boat racing the Commanders. It's not even close. Of course, that's a giant what if. We'll never know. But the way it was trending, and the fact that the Commanders, that game pissed me off because I had to do the walk of shame out of there. Commanders fans were beating their chests like they just won their Super Bowl, and it's like, bro, you needed your quarterback to throw a TD on with no time left in order to win that game. Like, you barely beat Kenny Pickett. Relax. And so, yeah, I feel like Jalen's going to be good. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Commanders if we see them again soon.
So you like them over Tampa? Because Tampa's been the thorn in our side.
No, I'll make this clear on my pod too. I want zero part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't want anything to do with them. This time of year, stats, throw them out the window. Records, throw them out the window. Doesn't matter. This time of year in the playoffs, it is a game of matchups. And some teams, even though they might have poor record and poor stats, just are a nightmare matchup for the other team. And Todd Bowles is Eagles' kryptonite. I don't care if it's there. I don't care if it's here. I don't care if it's 20 degrees. I don't care if it's 80 degrees. I want no part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because it's just a bad matchup. I would rather play the Washington Commanders for the third time. I'd rather play them for the fifth time than play Todd Bowles and Tampa Bay Buccaneers again.
You know, I told you I wasn't going to take up much of your time, and I will stick to that. Erock, I've always loved watching your content, and the comedy aspect of it.
I appreciate that.
It gets me every time as well.
That's what we try to do. We try to keep it light. We try to keep it fun. We try to keep it entertaining. We try to keep it moving.
And keep doing that. I love your content, and I really want to say thank you for coming on. Give me a couple minutes. I know you got a lot going on, so I really appreciate that.
My pleasure, and look forward to Sunday and the week after, which is we'll figure out who we're playing next. But I think we're going to get that double on Sunday and keep it moving.
All right, my man. I appreciate it once again.
You got it.
And go Birds.
Go Birds, baby. Take care.
Yep, you too.